Welcome to the DeFi Standard, and this is Mickey B. Fresh.
And Patty XRP.
And today we're going to be talking about Polysign interview with Jack McDonald and Tony from Thinking Crypto. So Tony just did an awesome interview with the CEO of Polysign and Standard Custody. And we pulled out a few clips that I thought were really important from this interview. And Jack McDonald's been doing the rounds, for the past 2 or 3 months now. And they're up to talking to 60 to 70 different clients. And now, how does this relate to Ripple and to XRP in the future? And Tony asked some great questions. And one of the questions he specifically asked was, Polysign going to partner with Ripple? And he doesn't say they're in a partnership right now yet, but he says once these regulatory hurdles with the SEC are cleared up, absolutely we look to partner with Ripple and do other things with them. So let's go into this clip here, Patty, that we got out of Thinking Crypto, Tony's interview with Jack McDonald.
Our hope, right now we're a very regulatory compliant focused organization, and given what's going on with Ripple and the SEC, there seems to be a little bit of a hold on taking in new assets, but we absolutely look to partner with Ripple and Ripple holders of XRP going forward. We'd like to think we have an unfair advantage there with Arthur and David's petty assets, but we absolutely look to partner with Ripple and Ripple holders of XRP going forward. We'd like to think we have an unfair advantage there with Arthur and David's pedigree. And, that was the first asset that we onboarded through our dev and as we were building out the tech. So we have a lot of friends at Ripple and very much look forward to this part of their journey getting resolved satisfactorily and being out there in the market. And I think not only from a custody standpoint, there may be other ways that we can work with Ripple going forward.
Very interesting there. He brings up a couple little breadcrumbs he drops in there I thought were interesting. And he says specifically XRP holders. Now, you could take that at face value. What does that mean? Well, there's many XRP holders. There's institutional, there's enterprise, there's RippleNet, and there's retail. So, one day could we see some type of enterprise-grade wallet for retail holders in the future? Possibly. Another thing he says in there, Patty, I thought was interesting, that we look to do other things with Ripple once this case with the SEC is over, besides just custody. So the question we got to ask, what do you think, Patty? Do you think that those Ripple wallets that Ripple is putting out now with the line of credit and ODL 2.0 could be part of Polysign's network, one of their blockchains?
Yeah, I definitely think it could. The other thing that really stood out to me with that portion was the fact that he's talking about how they're trying to get into like settlement infrastructure as well. And we know that, Ripple does a lot with ODL, line of credit, and things like that for sending XRP cross borders. So maybe them working with like atomic swapping and things of that nature is how their partnership could grow in the future. But yeah, custody seems like a pretty core thing. XRP has a lot of institutional use by nature of like Ripple's focus on the XRP ledger. So I think that would be the first thing, is that they'll be trying to offer custody solutions with their multi-party computation and HSM smart modules. So I think that's probably where they'll go to start off. It's possible in the future that they do have maybe more retail-facing enterprise products. However, I don't think it would be Polysign or Standard Custody directly offering them. It could be some firm that utilizes their back-end infrastructure and that proprietary blockchain they're going to have to offer a solution to retail customers.
Well said. I agree on that. Absolutely. And regarding their blockchains, we've gotten enough clues from listening to these. There's been about maybe 6 or 7 different interviews with Jack McDonald the past couple months. And we've heard him say numerous times, and this one too, they have 2 proprietary blockchains. So one is going to be, like you said, there for the custody and the authentication and the biometrics, he says, of custodying these assets, either as a full custodian for them, a sub-custodian for a bank, or they license out their software. Then they say their second product is going to be on the other blockchain, which is another proprietary private blockchain for settlement and escrow services of atomic settlement. And like you said, that overlaps with what RippleNet's doing in ODL. So there's obvious overlap here. I would think, to speculate, they would already be partners now if it wasn't for this unfortunate SEC case at the moment. So now the next clip we have here from Jack McDonald and Tony from Thinking Crypto.
Very favorably, given the security profile I referenced earlier, having a blockchain at our core is something that the regulators really took great note of, and I think treated us very well in the market as a result of that. We do have what we consider to be really better than cold storage type solution in place. And I say it's not exact cold storage because we have networked HSMs as part of our security shield, which many providers do. I think the legacy distinction between hot and cold storage is melting, if you will, if you'll pardon the expression, over time, because more and more of the equipment is networked. But we use HSM clusters as part of our approval process at the front end. We've got a lot of biometrics that we use, and encrypted hardware, really end to end, that we think is quite unique. This use of third-party verification firms as part of our approval process is unique, and the ability to basically store business logic and run that through the HSMs through leveraging our blockchain is a really critical piece of how we're approaching the problem that we're solving for.
So I think it's really interesting how he says hot and cold wallets are kind of melting. That no longer, and Tony asked him, is it cold storage? And he says, no, it's not the typical cold storage in a bunker, because that's not going to work in the future. You're going to need to be able to interact with multiple blockchains, and they're using multi-party computation, which is a layer, just like Ripple said with their wallet. You're going to be able to hold multiple assets in that wallet, from CBDCs to Bitcoin to stablecoin to XRP. Now that's going to then connect down to the underlying blockchains, and they're also using business logic and running it through the HSMs. When you think business logic, you think of like smart contracts. And then he gave away another little thing. It's clusters of HSMs. And when he mentions the verification, you would think private blockchain, they still have to have validator nodes to validate everything. So that's what I would think. There's certain entities that are probably regulated entities, because you don't need necessarily a token now when you have regulated entities on a private blockchain verifying. So they definitely have the next generation of a custody solution. And it's not easy just to build out a custodian solution like that. Since it's built on its own private proprietary blockchain, it's the only custody solution that has that at the moment. So this is really going to be an advantage going forward in the tokenization market, and also with RippleNet, ODL, and the whole DeFi ecosystem that's going into a boom right now. And institutions, hedge funds, pension funds, your wealth management and your family offices are all going to want to get into this. If it's staking with network rewards, or it's interacting with DeFi protocols. Like we could see one day, they're all going to be coming into Flare too. If it's going to be KYC, AML compliant, these DeFi protocols, then you're going to see the institutions come in. And we're seeing this convergence. So Polysign is really the convergence of the capital markets with the crypto markets, and tokenization falls right in there. So it's like Polysign is going to be like almost like an operating system that's going to connect the two together. And it's everything that Ripple is not doing, you would think that Polysign and Standard Custody are doing, considering that Arthur Brito and David Schwartz built this. And this began this process back in 2017. So they've been working on this for 4 years, and now they finally have their New York State bank charter license and BIT license as a trust custodian in New York. And now we got, go ahead, Penny.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, I just find it interesting that he said the regulators really love that they have a blockchain at their core. I would imagine that's because blockchains are really great for accounting purposes and keeping track of changes, state changes, things of that nature. And, I think it just goes to show that permission blockchains will definitely be used in the future. And there is a use case for those. Like, not everything needs to be decentralized, especially if it's within its own like business entity. So I think that just kind of shows how the blockchain space in general will keep growing. And also the fact that, like, let's just say like their proprietary blockchain, maybe they have like 5 validators on there that keeps track of, any kind of client's movement of funds or utilization in some way. Well, that's better than, I guess, one person just updating it on their own, where, an error can happen And if you don't have the ability to look back and change that, that can be an issue. So, utilizing a blockchain in this way that interacts with, I mean, I guess it will in some way interact with public blockchains, because if clients are moving funds around or utilizing on Ethereum or the XRP ledger or Bitcoin or something like that, that's all going to be tracked back down to their permission blockchain, which should help a lot as far as compliance and those kind of things.
Absolutely. And this is why multi-party computation wallets are the future. And, they're not giving out nano ledgers to their customers. But at the same time, institutions right now, what are their real choices? They have an account at Coinbase, and now they're stuck with just Coinbase in their walled garden. And that's really not going to be sufficient in the future, being trapped in Coinbase's walled garden, where having a wallet with Polysign and a multi-party computation and a whole private blockchain network will allow them to interact with all different CBDCs, XRP, BTC, and tokenization. So they do talk about tokenization, and they said that they're not competing with things like Corda or Hyperledger. They're a custody blockchain and a settlement blockchain. So they decipher themselves from buying like a SDK for Corda. So they're not trying to compete with them, but they're doing something on the next level that will work with the public blockchains, but at the same time be private for the capital markets. And they have a strategic partner in Cowen, who's an investment bank and prime brokerage. They're a 103-year-old financial institution, and 2 of their executives are now on Polysign's board. So I could see them, they're going to be the market maker pretty much for a lot of these exchanges when, say, a hedge fund or wealth management that's already a client of Cowen wants to get into digital assets. They're going to pop onto Polysign, probably have their custodial wallet with insurance, and then Cowen will authorize the transactions, and they could tap into multiple different exchanges to route these orders. Instead of just being stuck in one walled garden on Coinbase, you now have the whole global market. And that means you have different price feeds coming in. And he also talks about PayPal, he mentions in here. We know PayPal purchased Curve, which was the custodian, and they used multi-party computation. Now, they didn't use it with their own blockchain. They used a very basic version of multi-party computation. But it's interesting to see how PayPal has said we're coming out with the super wallet. And to do that, you need to be able to connect to all the different blockchains and then give the users ability to connect to those, not just hold the assets, but integrate with different dApps there and things like that. Because PayPal started out, you can't move your assets off the blockchain, off their wallet, And that seemed like, oh, they're going to keep it really strict. But what I think they're doing is they just went with the basic setup like that. And their next wallet's going to be allow them to really tap into the whole DeFi application ecosystem and CeFi and all these exchanges, because that's where the future is going. To do that, you need basically the multi-party computation blockchain. So Polysign is out in front kind of everybody with this. And it's really going to be interesting to see how they integrate with Ripple in the future. Since Ripple's already have the tie-in with 300 plus financial institutions, and they have this ability to lend XRP, that falls in perfectly now with a digital bank in standard custody sitting on a private blockchain. Now, Tony did ask, is this going to be part of a side chain on XRP Ledger? And Jack said he didn't really disclose anything, but he says we're open to working with Ripple on different types of projects, and we have some ideas in mind. So, it's just a natural thing with David Schwartz being on the board of Polysign and Arthur Brito there. There's going to be an integration at some point here in the future. But for this last video clip, they talk about tokenization. And Patty and I have been talking about that for a while. That's really what's going to converge this whole market in the future. And he says digital assets in tokenization is going to be a larger target market than even crypto. So that means for us, we'll have more investment opportunities in the future beyond just crypto, but tokenization of different assets, from real estate to bonds to securities to other derivatives. So let's take a listen to this clip and how he talks about tokenization and what they're doing.
I'm long-term certainly bullish on crypto. I own it personally, and it's a core part of our business. But when I think about what the TAM or total addressable market for us is, I think it's going to be on the non-crypto side of the digital asset spectrum. And we are, as it relates to this other business we have, doing some very, very interesting proof of concepts right now with some global banks and global asset managers around tokenizing real estate funds, and other types of assets. And I think it's only a matter of time before you see other types of securities, stocks, bonds, et cetera, that get tokenized, traded in a much more liquid and fluid fashion. Really, really exciting time to be in this industry, and particularly on the infrastructure side. We've got more ideas than we have people to execute on them, and that's an exciting place to be. That's particularly on the infrastructure side. We've got more ideas than we have people to execute on them, and that's an exciting place to be.
It's also an exciting place to be on the investment side as a retail investor, because this is one of those rare opportunities in history where retail actually has not only all the information at the same time as institutions, but we're able to get into it before the institutions have been able to get into it, with crypto, with DeFi, and coming with tokenization too. Jack has said in the past that they're looking to involve retail in the investment of some of these real estate tokenization products. I think real estate's an interesting asset class to tokenize, because it doesn't have as many of the restrictions as tokenizing securities or tokenizing bonds and other type of treasuries, where real estate could kind of get around those things. And also, I think VC funds, we could see tokenization in that. And Ripple's been hammering the drum with tokenization. So I see a lot of similarities here, Patty, on how what Ripple's saying and what Polysign is saying, what direction they're heading. They seem to be, converging at some point in the near future here. What do you think?
No, absolutely. I mean, just thinking about it, he says their total addressable market is, much bigger for tokenized assets than crypto assets. And I mean, the crypto market, I don't know if it's back at 2 trillion right now, but that's kind of where its high was. And then, basically every other market that's been around for a while, whether it was, derivatives, equities, commodities, bonds, all that stuff now, is tens of trillions, hundreds of trillions of dollars. So that's a lot of value that will be moved over onto blockchains in tokenized form, whether they're on permission blockchains, like, maybe you see a NASDAQ sidechain in the future on some blockchain, or, it's just they create their own thing and host it there. And sure, it can be centralized just like the current exchanges are, but it's, opening up, like you said, to, 24/7, 365 access, making it easier to move money between one place to another and all that kind of stuff. So I think that'll be really exciting. And with that, there may be new products created around these traditional, financial categories that kind of expand the value creation for these as well. Now, that's just stuff I wouldn't even know what that is. But as we see, technology advance, so too will we see use cases and new ways of doing things around these traditional products.
Absolutely. I can see NFTs possibly playing a role in there, from letters of credit to other types of fractional ownership of bonds being NFTs. And Tony asked a great question. He asked them, would Polysign and Stand Custody be custodying NFTs? And he's like, absolutely. We're looking into that. And we're heavily looking into the whole DeFi space right now. And this is, when a big institutional custodian who's working with the capital market is telling you we're deep into looking into DeFi and NFTs, you got to look at where is the market going and what is the direction. And I don't even think that necessarily there's going to be multiple winners when it comes to infrastructure of public blockchains. A lot of these applications are going to go on top of multiple of them. They could be on Cardano, they could be on Polkadot, they could be on Flare, they could be on many different networks, and not just be limited to one. So I think that idea of just silo, like all the tokenized assets are going to trade on, one blockchain. It's not going to happen like that. I think there's going to be multiple winners here, and the industry and the market is still figuring that out, and there's no clear direction. But I do think we have many winners, more than even just like 10. And I know, who was it? I think it was the CEO of Pantera said we could see like 10 different blockchains. I think we see a lot more than that right now, because you see in the market, things like Cardano are exploding. Things like Solana are exploding. Ethereum still has the big market share. We have Flare launching. We have Polkadot in the top 10. I mean, you're starting to see these advanced blockchains gaining more value, and you're starting to see the Litecoins and the Bitcoin Cash just slide back more, that aren't doing as much development and activity. And I think 2022, Patty, is going to be a really big year for the XRP ledger and its advancement into the DeFi space and the NFT space and the tokenization space, because we have hooks, which is going to be a huge amendment. The testnet is almost ready to go up and running. And then we're going to have this federated side chains. And then we're going to have the NFT amendment. We're going to have light accounts. So expect the XRP ledger to be a huge boom in advancement in 2022 compared to the last 8 years. I think we'll see more development in 1 year than we did see in 8 years. And you could see that already now with the airdrops that are coming. Everyone's getting a Zum wallet. There's more accounts being opened. It's no longer send, receive, hold. Now you could actually interact with the ledger. And these are what these blockchains are meant to do. Yes, they're assets to invest in, but they're meant to be used and participate in the networks. And Flare is probably one of the best examples of that. It's community-driven governance. So I just want to address one thing here, Patty, before we wrap this up. Anyone who thinks that Ripple is influencing the launch of Flare is absolutely wrong. And here's why. Ripple gets zero Spark. The whole network of Flare is governed by the Spark owners. Ripple is not going to be a Spark owner, so they have zero influence when the network goes live. So why would they have anything to do with the outside influence? They're a minority investor in Flare. They're not even the lead investor anymore. So they have no influence over this. And I know people want to justify and come up with every type of conspiracy theory. They're doing security audits. They're launching, I think, a canary network, which is a brilliant strategy, because now all the applications and DeFi that's going to be built on Flare, we're able to be tested in a real world. You won't need, like Cardano, 14 different test nets, blue, yellow, green, purple, all different types. You have one canary network, real behavior, real testing, and it will show the behavior of the market. And that's, I think, more robust than any test net, any like faucet could ever be. And that's, I think, going to be a really powerful thing to getting adoption on the Flare network. And I think it's absolutely worth the wait. You didn't invest any money into Flare. You're getting a free airdrop. Remember that. And yes, they do have to deliver, but they never set any dates, and this is coming. So, Patty, do you think we see Songbird come in the next couple of weeks here? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be after Labor Day, so I'm thinking next week. If it's not here by then, I will definitely be asking. But at that point, I think it's fair to. So, I mean, I'm hoping that we get some kind of announcement related to that this week, though.
And just to keep everyone up to date on what's going on here, the last few exchanges that needed to respond to Flare to say they were set up right for Songbird and Spark airdrop needed to be in by this past Friday. I think it was at 1700 GMT time. And that was like a final deadline for them. And also the private testing of the signal providers has taken place. So they released the code for that. So these signal providers are able to test at basically 90% capabilities to run everything they need to do, the microservices and all the data signaling back to the FTSO. So once they could launch, then right on the Canary network with Songbird, and everything's just going to, go right at once there. But that, remember, is not a test net. Songbird is not a test net. We should not be calling it a test net. It's a canary network is the official terminology. And I hear too much test net. It's not a test net. It's a main net. It's just a canary network to the Flare network, but it's not a test net, all right? So it's important that we use the right terminology so everyone in the community understands. There are some differences. In the next coming weeks, I'm going to be redoing the Flare educational series and probably do another 10 to 12 episodes, just updated version of what I did back in February and March, just to give us an up-to-date. And we're going to go through that, Patty and I, and we'll make different videos that will help you understand each specific segment, down to the Spark token, to F assets, to the state connector system, to actually Flare's liquid democracy governance, which I think is very important. Governance is such a huge thing moving forward. That's one thing I'm really looking forward to cover in the future. I think that's going to wrap it up on this video, Patty. And nothing here is financial advice, no tax advice, no type of advice. It's for educational purposes only.
Awesome. With that, this is the DeFi Standard. I'm Patty XRP.
And I'm Mickey B. Fresh.
And we're out. See you guys.